An article in the Hill Times claims that a majority of Liberal MPs here in Canada do not agree with Justin Trudeau's COVID mandate against unvaccinated Canadians. And that's, of course, the mandate that keeps unvaccinated Canadians from being able to board a plane, train, or cruise ship to travel domestically or internationally. Now, according to the article, several MPs who were interviewed for this piece stated that the majority of MPs want mandates dropped simply because they don't make sense. One Liberal MP who spoke with the Hill Times on a not-for-attribution basis so they could offer their honest opinion stated that the massive majority of Liberal MPs want the mandates to end. People are saying, what the hell? Why are unvaccinated people not allowed to fly domestic? You know, like at least let them fly domestic with masks on. You can go into a shopping mall with them. You can go into an elevator with them. You can go into the movie theater with them. All true and common sense statements, yet incredibly these mandates have remained in place. Three-time Liberal MP Marcus Pawlowski, who happens to be a medical doctor and a member of the Health Committee, also feels vaccine mandates for air travel should be removed. He says, the need for mandates has certainly changed, and the calculus is not the same as it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, or 6 months ago. I would suggest that the vaccine requirements for being on planes and at workplaces at the moment, I don't think the benefits of that mandate warrant the cost. Now that said, Pawlowski does support the idea of masks remaining in place on planes for the time being, but the number of Liberal MPs speaking out does not stop there. I'm going to be reading directly from the Hill Times piece here. Speaking on a not-for-attribution basis, several Liberal MPs said the issue has been raised numerous times in regional and national caucus meetings, but they did not get a satisfactory answer from cabinet members or Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as to why federal measures are still in place when provinces and countries have eased most of the restrictions for residents. There's never any straight or particularly convincing answer, I would say. Let's just leave it at that, a second MP told the Hill Times. Another MP said that the answers they're getting from cabinet ministers are very vague, especially when the COVID situation has changed significantly over the last few weeks. The answer is, we're listening to science and experts, said the MP, adding they want more specific answers from government. That's been the message from the very beginning. Sources told the Hill Times that Liberal MP Brendan Hanley, a former chief health officer of the territory, has done more than one presentation at national caucus meetings to make the case for dropping COVID-19 restrictions. He was not available for an interview with the Hill Times. So with very little or no pressure on the healthcare systems at this moment, with vaccinated people being at the same risk level as unvaccinated people at this point, and with all the data that we've learned about when it comes to COVID-19 and it being very mild in its current form, why is Justin Trudeau still holding these mandates in place? Perhaps it's simply punitive. I mean, after all, the Freedom Convoy must have been a sore spot for him. He tried to shut down the entire protest many times, claiming that it was just a fringe minority of people that disagreed with his authoritarian policies. But that didn't seem to be the case, as millions and millions of Canadians around the country supported the protest, including millions of people from around the world. And in this case, too, when it comes to this long-standing mandate, it is not a fringe minority of Liberals that think his policies are bad. It's the majority, according to the MPs who have spoken out in this particular article. So the question becomes, who does support Trudeau, his actions, and his policies? What Canadians are actually on his side? Well, it seems that Transport Minister Omar Alghabra might be one of those people that is on his side. He stated when it comes to these vaccine mandates, we're always erring on the side of public safety. We committed to Canadians that we want to do everything we can to protect their health and safety, and we're seeing people and governments and jurisdictions try to grapple with making the right decisions and the right balancing act with balancing public health and economic fluidity. That's what we're doing. The problem with this simplified thinking is, where does it end? Where do you draw the line of erring on the side of caution when it comes to public safety? Because truthfully, you can go on forever stating that anything you put into place will help make people safer, but without a true and a complete cost-benefit analysis on what damage is being caused, not just looking at economic side, but everything as well, including mental health, including breaking down of relationships, the breaking down of trusts and institutions, you have to assume that these types of ways in which people are looking at things and making decisions at a governmental level is honestly just silly, just to say that we're going to err on the side of caution at all times. This obsession and warlike thinking approach against COVID-19 has exposed an almost grade school level 1 type thinking that seems to be driving the vast majority of government policy. But the good news is we here at The Pulse are just days away from getting some FOIA requests back from the government where we'll have an opportunity to analyze all of the internal conversations and documents surrounding what cost-benefit analysis were done at the time, or cost-benefit analysis that weren't done at all when it came to instituting these COVID measures. Now, to be clear, I think anyone would have forgiven government back in March of 2020 when they did decide to lock down if they used that time to analyze data, to figure out what COVID was and what some of the infection fatality rates looked like, and then maybe after they realized all that, opened things up 30 to 60 days later because they realized, hey, most of these measures weren't necessary. But they didn't take this approach. Instead, they simply kept going with their measures for years, regardless of the science and regardless of the truth. And this is what we hope to further expose in these upcoming FOIA requests. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with our continuing investigation. And perhaps a little more good news just for good measure here. It seems that government personnel are really starting to feel the pressure around the idea that they cannot keep ignoring the science and the truth at this time with all that's coming out. That's it, that's all.